Again, straightforward enough question. I want to know the status of the provision of abortion services for women who are resident in the north of Ireland, further to the enactment of the Health Regulation and Termination of Pregnancy Act. And when, Minister, will you deliver on the commitment that you gave for free provision of access for these women?
Deputy O'Reilly, for this question. I'm very much aware of the concerns that women in Northern Ireland have in relation to the access to termination of pregnancy, which indeed are very similar to those which women in the Republic faced prior to the recent change in the law here on the referendum. I really do hope we arrive at a situation in Northern Ireland in the not too distant future where Northern Ireland makes its own decisions in relation to this and moves in a direction where it can actually care for women in the health service there in Northern Ireland. But as long as that remains not to be the case, I want to make sure we can care, and I know we share this view, for women on the island of Ireland, regardless of whether you live north or south. And I do believe it is welcome and it is progress that women who live in Northern Ireland can now access termination services in this jurisdiction. However, as the Deputy knows, under the Health Act 1970, eligibility for public health services is based on a person being ordinarily resident in the state, and this is the bedrock upon which our eligibility system for health services, and indeed many other public services, is founded. The necessary provisions were made in the Health Regulation of Termination of Pregnancy Act 2018 to enable universal access for women living in the state to services to the services in question without charge. Women who live in Northern Ireland can access termination services in this jurisdiction, and that is an important message to go out. But would in effect be doing so not in the universal and free way that women in the Republic are. I don't believe that's fair, just to be very clear in relation to that, and I share the Deputy's wish to facilitate access without charge to termination of pregnancy services to women from Northern Ireland. Having said that, such a proposal raises a number of legal and policy issues. Now, I have had some initial discussions with the Attorney-General in relation to this matter, and he has indicated that as a proposition along these lines appear not to have been considered before, it does require a fair bit of work. I therefore intend to undertake such an examination of the issues in conjunction with the Attorney-General and other government colleagues as necessary. I thought we had a very good meeting when Deputy O'Reilly brought civic society groups who are campaigning on this matter to Leinster House, campaigning on this matter in Northern Ireland to Leinster House. I was very pleased to have a chance to meet with her, with those groups. I'd very much welcome a chance to do that again and to see together on a cross-party basis how we can rectify this. My policy intention is clear. I want women in Northern Ireland to be able to access the service that they can. To make sure they can access the service in a universal and free way is something I'm currently trying to find a solution to, but I remain absolutely committed to working to find them.
Minister, the €450 that they have to pay to access the service represents for some prohibitively expensive barrier that they can't get over. So in 2017, just over 900 women from the north travelled for an abortion. So the figure is low. The financial commitment is not huge, I would venture, although it is a financial commitment, and I don't dispute that. But all of the circumstances that you outlined in your reply were all known to you when you made the commitment. That nothing has changed. There's nothing has changed in the intervening time. So, you know, all of the circumstances were known. And I know that my colleague, Megan Farron, MLA, that Gráinne Taggart from Amnesty International, that the Alliance for Choice and other groups are all working hard to do what they can for the women in the north. But, Minister, I put it to you, it was you that made the commitment, and so it is up to you to deliver on that. And I can assure you fully, as I have done previously, and I welcome the opportunity to meet again to discuss it, that you will have my party's support in bringing this about, but for many, €450 does not represent access, it just represents a barrier.
Yeah, and for many others, it does help access. It does mean that people can now access on the island of Ireland services without having to travel to another island, without having to perhaps stay overnight in the UK and the likes, without having to experience the high airfares and the likes. It does mean for many in the early stages of pregnancy being able to visit a GP in the Republic of Ireland and access this at a primary care level as well. But don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that I think it's satisfactory. My commitment was given in good faith. My commitment that women could access it has been acted upon. The commitment I want to deliver on is that they can access it freely, like women in the Republic of Ireland can. I've outlined to you very truthfully, and to the Amnesty group that you brought to see me, and indeed other groups that day as well, that we are trying to find a way through this. What I'm trying to say on the record of the Dáil today is outlining obviously the fact that currently eligibility for public health services is based on a person being ordinarily resident in the state, and trying to find a legal way around that is the work that's ongoing. I'm committed to really working hard on this, to working with the Attorney-General's office, to keeping you updated, and indeed to meeting. I'd suggest it would be useful to meet again with you and any other interested colleagues and that group in the coming weeks.
Minister, we'd be very happy to take you up on that offer of a meeting, and we do want to see some progress. And it's not as if we'd have to reinvent the wheel, because there are circumstances already where health services are accessed by people from both sides of the border, and it is possible for this to be done. And I don't want to pour cold water on the commitment that you've given. We do welcome the meeting, but we're also conscious of the fact that the numbers are small, but women still do travel. And while I absolutely accept that €450 may not be a barrier for some women, it still is a significant barrier for many, and that is a barrier we would like to see removed. So I restate the commitment of Sinn Féin to work with you to be able to deliver this, and I welcome the opportunity to have that meeting, and I'm hoping at that meeting that we will be able to mark some form of progress and indeed put a deadline for conclusion on negotiations or work that has to take place, so that we can say with confidence that yes, it will be delivered, and we can give a date for that.
You're right with that point as well. I'd also like to work with the Deputy and with groups in Northern Ireland in relation to the support that the 24/7 helpline that we now have in operation can provide for women, regardless of where they live on the island of Ireland, in ensuring that women can talk to qualified healthcare professionals or indeed counsellors about all of their options, can be signposted in terms of how to access services, and to make sure that whilst we are proactively promoting the existence of those services here in this jurisdiction, that there's a knowledge and awareness of the existence of that service and that information and that support north of the border as well. So we don't disagree on where we want to get to here. What I do need to find is a way of getting there. I'm not the font of all wisdom on it, though I do have access to the Attorney General's office and the likes. Also happy to hear opposition ideas on how we can legislate in this regard too, and I'll be in touch to arrange that meeting with you.